Okay, so we have Brew Elfin and I Am Shifty backing Ryu Hayabusa as the 5th DLC fighter for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And then in my last video I was talking about how someone messaged me with a very compelling Mii costume list that essentially came true, saying that Crash Bandicoot would be DLC number 5. So who's right here? I'm not ready to go all in on who I think definitely is going to be DLC number 5. I'll wait for some really solid piece of evidence before I do that. But given what I know right now, despite last video saying that I thought Crash made a really good DLC number 5, it's a great character to kind of like end the pass off on, like Crash is a really big deal, and also Crash fits color theory really well, being orange. I actually think, given everything that I've heard, Ryu Hayabusa is probably the most likely DLC number 5 going right now. Now, I'm not saying that the Crash Bandicoot leak is wrong necessarily, and I'll explain that in just a second, but first I just want to go over something that was said that put a little bit of a damper in the Crash leak, at least for most people. Over on Sabi's Discord, someone with Nintendo of America connections, someone that Sabi usually refers to as their Nintendo ambassador source, and I've heard about this source for a while, posted this. It says, "No Tracer, no Crash." This obviously was a huge hit to the Crash Bandicoot leak that just happened, especially coming from someone that Sabi really trusts and a source that I've known about for a long time myself. In response to this getting out, Sabi wrote this. "Okay, so I've been in a group chat for ages with an ambassador. PapaGenos has referenced him ages ago. Only in the group with like 10 people. Early this morning he just posted, 'No Crash, no Tracer,' and one of the people shared it in my server. He's a known ambassador who has written books sponsored by Nintendo and whatnot. I didn't leak this myself or anything, and I'm not saying Crash isn't happening. That's just what he said. Maybe he was speculating if it's wrong. He wasn't even the one who posted it in the server. Somebody screenshotted his message." Now, I've talked to Sabi about this, and there's the possibility that this Nintendo ambassador source was really just saying Crash Bandicoot isn't DLC number 5. I don't think it's really possible to say a character isn't coming to Smash unless you know absolutely every character that's coming to Smash. And I think that's basically unknowable right now. Maybe Sakurai doesn't even know. I don't even know if every character is planned out at this point. So it's not really possible to say no to a character. It's always a red flag for me when some like fake leak does that or something like that. Obviously, the Nintendo ambassador is a pretty good source. We've used them in the past and stuff. But I think them saying no Crash is really more just saying no Crash for DLC number 5. I made a post over on Smashboards about this. I made a post over on Smashboards about all this stuff going on between Ryu Hayabusa and Crash Bandicoot and just what I think is going on. So I'm just going to read that post to you guys. So I say, first off, I've seen a few people saying this, so to be clear, the Crash Leak Mii costume person is not the person who told me about Banjo a year ago. I'm not entirely sure why some people thought that, but just to be absolutely clear, the person who's telling me about this Crash Bandicoot stuff and where the Mii costumes come from, that's not the person who was telling me about Banjo with the Microsoft source. They've never really told me any other leaks. I do still talk to them, though. The Banjo person with the Microsoft source has never leaked anything other than Banjo to me, though we do talk here and there and speculate. We talked before Terry's reveal and we're speculating on who DLC 4 might be, for instance. So yeah, this Mii costume list / Crash stuff is coming from a completely different place than the Banjo stuff. I'd have said it was the Banjo leaker if that were the case, as it would add credibility for sure, but it's not that person. Right now, I'm thinking Ryu Hayabusa is DLC 5. I'm not ready to go 100% all in on any character for DLC though. Hayabusa is just who my current guess is based on what I'm hearing. That isn't to say the Crash / Mii costume list thing isn't legitimate info, though. There just might be something odd going on. First off, the Mii costume list seems legitimate to me, and it's basically impossible to guess Goemon and Rocket Grunts. So that part is a solid leak in my opinion. The Mallow, Smithy, Chocobo stuff attached to it does make me think Geno is likely, but I have nothing more to say on that other than speculating. The Brew leak also has a soft Geno leak somewhat attached to it, so Geno seems to be slightly a part of both of these leaks, which is good news in my opinion. Obviously, I really want Geno, so having that Mii costume list have Mallow and Smithy and Chocobo, all Square characters, 2 of which are Mario RPG characters, as Mii costumes. Yeah, it gives me hope that if Geno was playable, maybe these Mii costumes would show up alongside him. And then the Brew leak also has Brew saying that they somewhat sort of heard about Geno. They're not 100% on that, but that's in there too, so I'm happy Geno's part of both of these leaks. I've talked to Sabi about this, and even with their NOA source saying no tracer, no crash, as far as I'm aware, Sabi is still totally on board with the Mii costume list part of the leak being a legit real leak. Also, Sabi has suggested the no crash quote from their NOA source might just mean no crash as the next fighter, as in Crash isn't DLC 5, not that Crash isn't happening at all. Saying no to a character kind of implies you would have to know every character we are getting, and that seems impossible to know at this point. Now, as for the Crash part of the leak specifically, I can only go so far with that piece. I'll explain what I mean. Leaks are a game of telephone. What I was told by this person was that Fighter 5 is Crash, and that it was coming from the same IGN source of theirs that told them the Mii costume list in July. However, I have no contact with their IGN source, so if the IGN source has multiple sources of their own, it's possible Crash and the Mii costume list are actually coming from different places. I have no way of knowing if there's a split in the chain of communication after the IGN source. So while it seems from our perspective that the Crash and Mii costume list are coming from the same source, the IGN source, I do not know for sure if both of those pieces of information actually originate from the same source. Again, it's a game of telephone and I can only see so far down the line. And then I put this visual to explain what I'm talking about. So as you can see, there's me and then the other people who were told the Mii costume list at one side. That's connected to the person who told me about this stuff. They're then connected to the IGN source, and then before that is kind of an unknown. They got the Mii costume lists from somewhere, and then they also got the Crash info from somewhere, but I can't be certain that that's actually the same person. So obviously the Crash info has a lot more legitimacy to it if it's coming from the exact same original place as the Mii costume list, but as far as I know, the IGN source could have tons of multiple sources, so it's tough to say. Obviously, if Crash is coming from the same source as the Mii costume list, then yeah, that adds a lot of credibility to Crash. I also added lines connecting me to the other people who were told the Mii costume list, as I've talked to them and verified that yeah, they heard this back in July. Alright, so now I'm going to get into my speculation for what I think might be happening here. Right now I have a bit of a theory for what I think might be happening. This is something that seems to keep happening with leakers. They get the order wrong. Vergeben heard Erdrick and thought he'd be the first DLC revealed. Instead, we got Joker, but we did eventually get Hero. I heard Banjo and the Grinch leak had me thinking he would be in the base game. Instead, he was in, but as DLC. I Am Shifty heard Ryu Hayabusa and said he was the next fighter, DLC 4. Instead, we got Terry, but potentially Ryu Hayabusa is in fact DLC number 5. This has continued to happen time and time again, and I'm guilty of it myself. We get a piece of information, and we just kind of assume that that means it's happening shortly. It's going to happen very soon. It's going to be the next thing that happens, but it happens later down the line. The piece of information was right. The leaker was correct. They just assumed something they probably shouldn't have. The order for Smash is really hard to guess at. What might be happening with this Crash thing is, once again, someone is hearing a solid character leak and assuming the order. So if Crash is in fact originating from the same source as the Mii costume list info, and again, I explained it's possible they aren't, I have no way of knowing where the IGN source is hearing this stuff from, then I think Crash is probably happening, but later down the line, while Hayabusa is likely DLC 5. That's just my current speculation on all this, though. I do not know for sure who DLC 5 is, or any characters that are getting into Smash right now. Even though the leak, I was told, was specifically Fighter 5 is Crash, I think that is potentially just an assumption of the order. It seems leakers keep assuming the order when the only real info they actually have is a character's name. I'm basically guilty of doing this myself with the Grinch leak and the Banjo info. I had a solid, legitimate leak about Banjo coming to Smash, and that caused me to assume he was going to be in the base game and believe the Grinch leak. Smash characters come from tons of different companies, and very few people have the whole picture. But hearing only one name causes them to assume that name must be happening imminently, when that is not always the case. Okay, so that's pretty much my theory for what could be happening here. I think Ryu Hayabusa has the best shot at DLC number 5, but I don't necessarily think the Crash info is wrong. It could be wrong, again, if the IGN person has multiple sources and Crash isn't coming from the same place as the Mii costumes, it could just be totally wrong. If it is coming from the same place as the Mii costumes, then I'm guessing that what might be happening is Crash is actually happening later down the line, and Crash's fighter number 5 was just an assumption. There's a lot of unknown factors here, but I wanted to give you guys those theories. Okay, and then we also got some information for yet another character that could be coming to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Over on Twitter, @Reimu for Smash wrote this: "Something big just came out regarding Reimu, and our leaks channel is going effing nuts. Basically, I assume they meant a guy in a touhou doujin circle who has leaked a bunch of stuff regarding touhou in the past, went out and confirmed a certain rumor and gave a list. My heart is pounding." From my understanding, the person who's leaking this stuff has leaked stuff correctly for touhou in the past, specifically things for Antinomy of Common Flowers. Now they're leaking this big list of songs supposedly coming to Super Smash Bros. The songs are Theme of Eastern Story, Maiden's Capriccio, Mystic Oriental Dream, Spring Lane, Dichromatic Lotus Butterfly, Akutagawa Ryun Osuke's Kappa, Last Remote, Spring of Dreams, The Venerable Ancient Battlefield, Emotional Skyscraper, Shotoku Legend, Inchling of the Shining Needle, Sunny Milk's Scarlet Mist Incident, A Star of Hope's Rises in the Blue Sky, The Ground's Color is Yellow, Shinkiru Theatrical, Neo Bamboo Forest in Flames, Unknown X, Necrophantasia, Night Falls, Battlefield of the Flower Threshold, The Concealed Four Seasons, Secret God Matara. A few things I want to mention. The leaker is one who has leaked things regarding touhou and has been correct. The listed songs are getting remixes. We don't know if we'll get music beyond that from Zun himself. Zun is the creator of touhou. The leaker went out and said it's for Smash. This has been something that has been building since April, when rumors started going around when doujin circles are being called in to remix songs for Smash. And then the origin of this leak is actually coming from Japan. So there you go. That's a huge list of songs supposedly coming to Super Smash Bros. And this person has been right about touhou stuff in the past. So that's pretty crazy. That's some good news for Reimu fans. Seems like she could actually be coming to Smash. Considering how many songs are on that list, kind of feels like that would be for a playable character. Alright, well that's everything I got for you guys today. If you have any thoughts or comments about any of the stuff I talked about in this video, leave them below. So once again, thank you guys for all the subscribes, all the likes. Really helps out the channel. So if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do so, or like the video, or leave a comment, whatever you want. Until next time, have a good one.